Hey, this is Karila with Metal Life Magazine. I am here at the Whiskey A Go-Go.
Whiskey!
With someone who drank way too much whiskey the night before.
Sweating out whiskey at the whiskey, you guys. You're metal.
I am here with Terrence from Suffocation. How's it going, Terrence?
I'm hanging in there, man. Just a little hungover, you know how it is. Whiskey.
Yeah. You got tons of boxes down there, too. I'm surprised we were tripping over all that merch.
Oh, my God. Actually, that's the second half of the merch. We had the initial delivery at the beginning of the tour, and we pretty much wiped it all out, so now we have to get the secondary order, so it's kind of cool because it coincided like halfway throughout the tour. So we got the first half in the beginning, then sold most of it, and then we got the second half, so hopefully we won't come home with any merchandise, but you know how that one goes. We probably will. You know.
I think the first thing I saw when we were walking up here were those awesome shirts of your face and those oh my God, that is iconic. Where did the idea for that shirt come about? Was it a joke or what?
No. Well, all right. I have a friend of mine, this girl Esther, who lives in France.
Okay.
And you know, she's a good friend of ours, kind of like a liaison. When we go over there, she hangs out with us. You know, she speaks a bunch of different languages, so on and so forth. So, just prior to this tour, when we were in Europe, we're standing in France, and lo and behold, she comes walking up with these two bags, and it happened to be 30 of those shirts.
Oh.
And she printed them, she made the design, you know, she did the character or whatever. She's like, give it out to your friends. We were like, okay, so we gave it out to our friends, and then from that point on, everybody on Facebook seen them and was like, how do we get them? How do we get one? So it had nothing to do with me or anybody in my band. This was just like a fan-oriented type of thing, a little out of the norm. So she said, oh, this is going to be great, this is going to be great. Why don't you try it out? I said, okay, all right, whatever you say. Needless to say, they've been going like hotcakes, so I'm happy. But you won't catch me wearing one.
I was going to say, are you worried about walking around Long Island in 2 months and then seeing people with shirts of your face and going, well.
I mean, I guess I'm, you know, I'm pretty much on every YouTube video of Suffocation anyway, so they're kind of gonna see me anyway. But it's kind of cool to have like a character of myself, I guess. You know, it's not a bad thing. It's not the greatest thing. Some people will be like, oh, this is super corny. Other people are gonna be like, wow, that's pretty cool. So, you know, people seem to like it. They think it's funny. So what the hell?
I think one thing that makes you guys super unique, and I mean, the way you guys market yourselves on Facebook, if you took out the fact you were a death metal band, nobody would think you played that kind of music just because you have such a very light attitude about life, and you don't take yourself seriously. Is that something that, you know, because you get channeled in your music, that's just not in you? Or
well, I mean, you know, I mean, that's what the music's for, to kind of vent your frustration, so that way I don't go through life being a dick all the time, you know? But, really, it's all a matter of just having fun. Like, if we're not having fun, it's not worth it. I don't want it to become a job, per se, like, that, you know, like you wake up, you go, oh man, I hate going to work. I don't want to see my boss. Like, that's not what this is about. We've been doing this just trying to have fun since the beginning, even with these other guys over here. Like, you know, since I was a kid, I've been playing with these guys, so it's really fun. Obviously, I'm always into the gory, the death metal stuff, you know, that kind of thing, horror movies and such. So, I mean, I guess that goes hand in hand, but it's mainly for fun. It's
just such a good attitude to have, and it's so refreshing to see. I think that's something that a lot of bands, at least who are starting off, kind of are losing nowadays, is they're taking themselves way too seriously. And I understand that because it's a lot more competitive now.
If everything's being taken too seriously, I would suggest that people lighten up, because you only live once and you can't go through your life being an asshole all day. You know, the best bet is to try to have a good time and to realize that, okay, you're playing death metal, like, or you're playing really heavy thrash. It's not like a top 40 thing. It's not like, you know, as of last year, there hasn't been one platinum selling record at all. So that just goes to show you, like, where you're at in the scheme of things. You know what I mean? So if you do it because you love it, then you'll be happy. If you're expecting to make money and make a living, you're kind of probably disappointed. But stick to your guns anyway, and just, you know, keep going, because you never know. You know what I mean? So that's really how I look at it.
Something I actually wanted to bring up, and this is for me out of curiosity, because I wasn't born in the time of like the old school and the metal. I wanted to find out about your experiences with Scott Burns and Morrisound, especially because a lot of death metal bands that rose out of that scene now are celebrating the 20 years, the 15, 20, 25 years. Knowing the legend that, I mean, Morrisound is kind of slowly becoming, do you feel kind of nostalgic from it?
Yeah, I do feel a little bit nostalgic from it. I mean, I learned a lot from Scott Burns, you know, a long time ago. And I mean, it's not so much as just learning how to record, but it was just the methodology behind it.
Right.
How you would go about recording and doing punches, you know, laying down riffs, so on and so forth, helping and producing. So, I mean, for me, he was, you know, like a pivotal part of what Suffocation is right from the beginning. He's a great dude, very knowledgeable, and I think, you know, he really etched Morrisound back in that time, back in the 80, 89, 90, 91, with all the different bands that he had done and all the different bands that Morris had done, you know, Jim Morris. So Morrisound is a staple, man. It's definitely in there. It's definitely a cultural icon for death metal, for sure.
And for you, I know you're kind of working and experimenting with sound engineering and mixing yourself.
Yeah.
So Scott Burns must have had, did he have like a huge influence on that? Or there other
obviously,
influences as well?
I mean, he was just the kind of guy that knew everything about recording, you know what I mean? And because he knew so much aspects on like how you would record your guitar, or how you record your drums, and where to place microphones and things, and you know, just stuff like that helped me along the way.
I saw an interview where you guys were kind of also, I guess, on the run of being nostalgic. You were talking about the venue that you and Frank used to love to go to, the Sundance venue. I want to know what one of your favorite, most unforgettable shows there was, and then what you kind of think now about when you go to venues. I was like, oh, well, back in Sundance.
Yeah, all right. Well, Sundance was like our staple club on Long Island for a very long time. Unfortunately, it's closed, but so many bands went through there. I mean, Dark Angel, Death, Exodus, Slayer, you name it. Everybody's gone through there. So for us, you know, we had the opportunity at Suffocation very young on to play with like Death there, and that was probably one of my most memorable concerts. You know, just because it was home. You know what I mean? And at that point in time, that was like a super influential band for all of us. Like Death was just like, you know, Scream Bloody Gore came out, and everybody was just like, holy shit, we were blown away. You know?
That's awesome.
So us starting off, you know, we would always try to vie to get the opening spot in venues, and sure enough, we ended up getting that spot. So that kind of helped. You know, that helped us a lot in understanding what Long Island was about, especially what the scene was about. And now when we come into all these different venues, like in retrospect, like you always find like something in a club that kind of reminds you of that place. You know what I mean? Whether or not it's a stage setup or a backstage room or something, there's always something that, you know, brings me back to those days when we first started.
Right. That's awesome.
Yeah, very cool.
So you like to talk about how, I mean, you seem to have a good flow as far as writing. You tend to really make a lot of product, the product. What's one of the most random things or events that you can remember that kind of inspired you to write a certain riff or melody?
I don't go about it that way, I guess. I mean, there's a lot of influential bands that are out there. I mean, you know, I was always into Death and Pestilence and Dark Angel and Slayer and Cryptic Slaughter and Wehrmacht, and like, you know, the list goes on and on and on and on. But for me, it's mainly I just sit down, it's late at night, play my guitar, and just work out riffs. It's not like one's more influential than the other. It's just me just trying to get out what I feel. And, you know, everything has an influence, obviously. You know, from Yngwie Malmsteen to the bands like Slayer, and, you know, so on and so forth. All have an influence. So, I mean, to me, it's just a matter of sticking back to the old school roots and like the things that really shocked me when I was a kid. You know what I mean? Because there wasn't anything really as heavy as the bands are today, or as technical or as fast as the bands are today.
Now, you did mention that you were a fan of horror films. So if you could write a riff based on like watching a horror movie and you could create something that was really cohesive with it, what would you try to write for?
Well, I mean, there's so many different horror movies that I like, but I mean, I put The Exorcist and The Shining in my top 10, obviously. So it would be them two that I would try to be inspired by the most because they were just so classically horror.
And my last question for you, kind of a kind of a fun one, I guess, is I love your post when I look on my Facebook and I see this random post of like all the stashes of like Halloween candy, like Kit Kats, and I was just like, shit, that's amazing. Like, so I want to know from you, when you were a kid, what was your favorite Halloween candy? What was your least favorite?
My favorite Halloween candy was always chocolate, no matter what it was. So
even Tootsie Rolls, though?
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, like Hershey's, you know, or Kit Kats or Crunch Bars, you know, that was my favorite stuff. It still is. You know?
Yeah.
So to this day, that's where I stick with.
Kit Kat's got to be your hangover cure now, right?
Probably about an hour's worth of sleep will do more justice than that. But, I'm good
man.
to go, you know, forever.
Well, we're going to give you your beauty sleep while you can. Thank you so much for your time and for contributing to Metal Life.
No problem.
Thank you so much, dude. I really appreciate it.